It's the final race of the season in Formula One and it's all changed. Marussia are out, Caterham are out, big questions over Lotus. Does that mean the business model is failing? That's a question for Paolo Aversa, our Formula One expert.
Well, there is definitely a problem in the business model of Formula One that does not make it possible for small teams to continue racing after underperforming for a few years. And this is probably due to the way the revenues of the sport are divided. I mean, as we probably know from media, 50% of the sports goes to CVC Capital Partner, basically to the organizer, Bernie Ecclestone, and the other 50% is divided among the teams in a proportion that is, let's say, related to the race performance. Now, this brings the big teams to get the big slices of the pie and the small teams to get almost nothing. If we consider that a team, average team, spends not less than 100 millions to compete in a Formula One season, and the last team on the race grid gets around 14 millions, I mean, the gap between what they have and what they need to continue competing is basically huge.
Paolo, you speak about Bernie Ecclestone keeping 50% of the money, but if I could just play devil's advocate, he set the sport up. Why shouldn't he make a profit?
Well, definitely Bernie Ecclestone is one of the biggest resources of the sport. He brought the company, I mean, Formula One, being a global industry, creating opportunities, job opportunities also all around the world. Around 30,000 people work in business related to Formula One today, and it's a huge industry that goes beyond 2 billion per year. Now, the point is, this brings also responsibilities. If teams close down because they cannot keep up with the competition, means that hundreds of people will be unemployed tomorrow. So, you know, from big opportunities and big success also come big responsibility. At this point, I think it is time maybe to reconsider how to share the pie to make the sport not only sustainable but also fair for the people who, for example, in the Motor Valley here in Oxfordshire, work for the success of Formula One.
Of course, the other argument as to the cause of these big changes is that it's all the fault of Mercedes. They're just too successful.
Well, Mercedes is a very successful company that did extremely well in developing a car and mostly an engine that, you know, works very well around the regulation and outperform competitors in such a extreme way that basically the competition that we see is only between the two Mercedes drivers, Rosberg and Hamilton. So, you know, a pat on the shoulder is minimum for them. It's well deserved. On the other hand, Formula One is an entertaining industry where people need to see fierce competition until the very end, and the fact that there is a huge bias towards big teams because they have better resources and the regulation do not allow the small teams to really, you know, catch up with competition, like for example happens in American sports like football or basketball, somehow makes the show less interesting. So I think apart from, you know, also the employability of the people who work for this minor companies, it would be interesting to see, you know, some underdog really, you know, fighting back and maybe winning, you know, a championship like Braun GP in 2009 did after a last-minute buyout from Honda.
Paolo Aversa, thank you very much.
Thank you.